Hello and welcome to the Shambles United podcast. This is your host Pranav Shahani. I've got two guests with me today, as usual. I have a favorite, an all-time favorite, Karan Advani. He's joining us for our third episode, and we have Krishna Chaitanya, who's making his first appearance here. And just to make things easier, I'm going to call him Casey from now on. So basically, this episode is going to be about Edinson Cavani and his impact at the club. We'll discuss how United got him, whether we should keep him, how his season has been so far, and what the future holds for our number nine position. So before we start talking about Cavani, I think it's best to talk about where we left off last episode. We spoke about the Spurs game, and I was one who said that it's going to be a one-all draw, and Karan rightly predicted it's going to be a 3-1. So I'll just come to you first. What do you think of that game, and what made you go for the 3-1 prediction?
Firstly, it feels so good to beat a Mourinho side. Like it's something that really soothes all of us United fans after the final year he gave us. But like I said in the previous episode, I was going for the 3-1 prediction, which was quite bold because over the past few weeks we found it a little tricky to break down a low block. And I just got the feeling that we might be able to nick an early goal. And while Spurs come out to attack us, they are weak defensively, where Bruno or Pogba or probably Greenwood could end up scoring a couple more. And I was sensing a goal that we would concede. So hence I said 3-1.
And coming to you, Casey, what did you make of the game? Did you think it was going to go so well, or were you surprised by a few things Ole did?
I mean, honestly, I was a little skeptical about how the game would go, but the way we started off, I was really, optimistic about how it would end up. I thought we could probably nick a 2-0 if we are, clinical enough. But honestly speaking, the first 20 minutes, we showed a lot of grit. And at that point, it's basically, what do you call you cannot basically talk about the game without talking about the refereeing in that game. I think that has to be the main talking point if you're talking about the Spurs game. That foul that Son took up to basically deny the goal, and that shambolic refereeing, even after going to the VAR and not being shown the actual frame before the foul, that was just proper. It just irritated me to the point where I just turned off my TV and I stopped watching the game for the rest of the first half. That was how irritated and pissed off I was right after Spurs scored the goal. Within the next 5 minutes. And after that, I think the moment second half started, we're talking in a lot of groups, and everyone's like, come back on. We've basically showing a character that is reminiscent of the old times, like the way United usually respond to going a goal down. And since then, it was just pure character. Like, I think there was, if you watch Space Jam, like how Bugs Bunny puts in that potion, like it's just a water bottle, is said, Michael Jordan's secret stuff, and everyone just drinks it and thinks that they've got superpowers. That's basically how I feel like our players came back on to the pitch after that second half, for that second half, and basically turned the game around. We basically showed Mourinho, and his side that we've got more character, we've got more possess, and we've got more finesse than he'll ever have.
Absolutely. And speaking about Jose, as in typical Jose fashion, at the end of the game, he blamed the refs. He said that Pogba should have been sent off. So, what do you guys make of that? Was he just a sour loser, or did he have any points? Did he have any merit to what he was saying?
Oh, I never,
Karan, you want to
I
answer that?
yeah. I thought he was clutching onto straws. He wanted to divert the talking, like the media and like fans in general from speaking about the game. Like Pogba rightly said today, it's just a Mourinho thing to do. And I do feel that the elbow decision, it maybe you could have given a yellow to Pogba because it seemed quite rough, but it would have been too harsh to send him off for that. It really would have been a ridiculous. Something, it could have been a decision that we gotten used to ever since Klopp made those penalty claims against United. We've faced a lot of howlers Correct.
Yeah, Casey, what did you make of it?
Honestly, it's just Mourinho being Mourinho, like, clutching at straws, trying to divert attention from the fact that his team lost shamefully, not just lost a fair game of football, but like pretty, unprofessional display from the entire Spurs squad, which, and like, especially considering the fact that the player in question for the goal that got disallowed was Heung-min Son, was one of the more respected people in that entire Spurs squad. It just goes to show that Mourinho would do anything to take attention away and taking responsibility from his team's defeat, which he was pretty prominent at doing even at United. He would blame the players. Whenever you lose, it's one of the players or the referee's fault. Whenever you win, it's all his credit. It just goes to show that he's lost his touch. And honestly, like Karan said, it would have been a yellow, but even most football pundits basically just agree on the fact that it should never, and it could never have been a red.
I'm so glad that all of us are in agreement with the fact that Mourinho was a really toxic presence at United, and I'm so glad that as a club and most of our fan base has now moved on from him. So I would like
I
to.
would not be so sure about that. There's
I mean,
still a huge fragment that is still, Jose in, Ole out.
well, we have a few of those crazy fans, but what can we do about it? I think
Yeah,
that
but I just wanted to make a point about like you mentioned Mourinho being really toxic at the club. One of the things I really want to credit Ole on is the fact that we have the ability to come back from misery. We have the knack of going on these freakish runs of winning 8, 9, 10 games in a row. And like we've been undefeated for 23 away games now. So, one of the things I want to credit him for is like we've noticed a lot under second season Jose at United when we finished second that we would take leads and then sit back and hold those leads. Maybe because of De Gea or whoever. But one of the things that Ole has really improved at the club is the fact that we can go down and we can come back from misery. And that's something that we didn't have with Mourinho because Mourinho's plan B to get a goal was to throw Fellaini on top and just hope he win the second ball and end up scoring. So
I mean,
credit to Ole for that.
right, like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you both know that I'm an ardent Fellaini fan, and Fellaini did his best whenever he was thrown into that position. But like, it's a testament to the character that the team now has under Ole, that we've won 28 points from losing position. That would be a pipe dream under Mourinho. Like, honestly speaking, whenever we went down or even the team equalized in the 80th minute, if we were leading and then the opponent scored and they equalized, I would be afraid that we would lose the game. And right now, I'm like, when I watch United play, I feel like, okay, even if we go a goal down early, it's like your funeral, bro. You basically called us on to be more, clinical in terms of finishing, and we basically we have it. We have what it takes, and we have the character to go ahead and score 2 or 3 more.
And looking, if you compare the tactics, both managers in big games like to sit back and then play on the counter attack. But the way Jose did it, his style, it wasn't fluid. It was just playing long balls. But with Ole, you can actually see that when we are counter attacking, there's a build up. There's some plan to it. The players are moving in. The wide men are coming in. We have the fullbacks overlapping. Under Jose, nobody had that kind of freedom to just bomb forward. So I think Ole has really changed the mentality of so many players. And Luke Shaw, for one, nobody thought that he would make the sort of comeback that he has. And credit to Ole for that. He just changed around his entire game, and now he's the favorite to be England's left back at the Euros. So, I mean, Ole deserves all the credit for that.
Yeah, but Pranav, I had to ask you a question about the big game argument. Don't you think United have been a lot more free flowing this season against the top six rather than last season? Because last season I felt we played to our strengths, we were countering, but this season I noticed that we really try to play the game. We try to take the game. We did it to City, we did it to Chelsea. So, what do you think about that?
I think yes, things have changed. They are much better than last season, and you can see our position on the table as well. We've gotten some really good players, and thankfully we've got Bruno, and that's someone we didn't have in last season before Jan. So I feel that with Bruno, the team just feels like they are going into the game with a 1-0 lead. They are playing with that kind of confidence because they know that if they have a bad game, if they concede the odd goal, they have a player like Bruno who's going to turn things around. And then there are players around him who are just working towards him. You have Rashford making those kind of runs. You have Cavani making those runs. You have McTominay and Fred whenever they are playing, just holding back. So everyone seems to be understanding their position better than they did last season, and that's only going to happen when you have a manager who's been at the club for 2.5 years now. So I feel that we are right to give him time. Although I was pretty skeptical when things were getting bad before Bruno came, but now I'm glad that the club's stuck with him, and I think that we need one more good season, and we might be able to contend for the title again.
Again, Pranav, you forgot one big name, the main door lock that we've been trying to unlock for the last 4.5 seasons. Pogba, that guy looks like a different player now, right?
I just
we
hope
all,
I just hope he doesn't get injured again, man.
oh yeah, that's one thing. But
Fingers crossed.
thankfully, yeah, touch wood. Let's hope it doesn't. But honestly speaking, like the attitude that Pogba has on the pitch now is very, very clear. Like, I am a huge criticizer of Pogba and his attitude. Like, he's very lax. He takes too much time on the ball. He loses position way too easily when pressured. He doesn't have a pass at the time when it's needed the most. But off late he's been showing character that caused, or that basically made him be valued at 80 million, like one of the most expensive midfielders of all time, right? So he's been showing that character, and now with while he's playing with Bruno, he's become a lot more confident. I mean, he still loses ball, like the possession, way more than someone in his position with his experience should do. But he's showing that character. And just to go back to the point that you were mentioning, that 2.5 years under the same manager, Luke Shaw and everyone else, it just is a testament to the fact that Ole has basically brought out that team culture. Now we look like a team that's playing. Like it's not just a bunch of 11 dudes that have been put up on the pitch by the manager and they're just playing to try and score a goal. It's no longer that. Like, I've mentioned this a million times under Jose, under LVG. It just seemed like, it's just a bunch of players that have been put together on the pitch. It never looked like a team. But right now, the chemistry between the players, if you look at our left flank, it's way more threatening than it ever was. Our midfield connects with our defense. Our attacks transition. They have been long balls that have been played through from Lindelof, if you remember the first leg. Lindelof played that ball through over the top to Rashford, who scored the opening goal. I don't think that would have ever happened if we were playing under a different manager since Sir Alex, right? And that's exactly what it is. Like it's no longer just one tactic. It's no longer go hoof ball or go wide and try to cross like Liverpool do, like cross and inshallah. That's not our tactic. It's no longer just counter attack. It's no longer just try to break down the low block. It's a mix of everything. Whatever size fits the bill, we go for that. Like we're no longer a single a unidirectional team. We play to our strengths, but we also improvise based on the situation. And that's the beauty of the game that Ole has brought to us.
Absolutely. And talking about Ole, now we are into another Europa League semi-final. What did you guys make of the quarterfinal game, the second leg against Granada?
Fairly straightforward victory. We were quite fortunate to have Cavani score the first goal in 6 minutes. And other than that, we just seemed to manage the game really well. We didn't need to really force the agenda, push forward. We just had to play, get through the 90 minutes. And getting the second goal was just like cherry on top. It was a very comfortable victory.
And Pogba just played one half and he was top of so many metrics. I mean, Casey, what do you make of Pogba's one half?
I mean, he was, yeah, exactly, right. Like, after 45 minutes, like he did more than the other people who were on the pitch for 90 minutes. Honestly speaking, I would have rather seen, Bruno being rested, because it was more or less a done deal. But eventually he did come off. But then, like I said, Pogba is looking like the player that he was supposed to be, like the player that we thought we bought.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad. Like, we need more of those performances, and we need them more consistently. It just can't be one in 5 games, one in 4 games. From someone like a Paul Pogba, you expect that to happen almost every single game, just like Bruno would do. Bruno has been doing for the last 1.5 seasons. We expect Pogba to be at a similar level because, honestly speaking, he is supposed to be that main creating force in midfield, right?
And Edinson Cavani was once again our savior. He was the one who, opened the scoring for us. So, what do you guys think we should do? I mean, firstly, what do you guys think his impact has been on the club? Because initially, people were not sure, is he going to be another Falcao? Some were saying he's going to be another Ibra. I don't think he's been at the either extreme. I think he's been right in the middle. But what do you think we should? How do you think? Firstly, how do you think his impact has been? What his impact been at the club?
Like
Yeah,
the moment we
yeah,
bought
sorry, go
him,
ahead.
yeah. So the moment we bought him, like I think, like majority of our fan base, I was very skeptical because a player who hasn't played football or touched a ball in the last 10 months, probably a player who's way past his prime, or in the twilight of his career, who's never played in a competition like the EPL because he's played majority in the French league. And let's be honest, like the physicality of the league doesn't quite suit up or match up to the EPL. So I was pretty skeptical, but the way Ole phased him into the team and slowly gradually integrated him with everyone, that's been one major plus, I'd say. And on top of that, I think the value that he's brought in, and if you look at Greenwood, honestly, I think people would say that he's fallen off compared to his last season antics post lockdown, where he was scoring goals for fun from anywhere. But off late, I think Greenwood has found his touch again. And if you notice the difference between Greenwood of last season and Greenwood of this season, he's a lot more, composed on the ball. He is a lot more of a finisher than he was last time round, because Cavani has given him, like, playing with Cavani, learning with him, with someone of his experience. What it's done for someone like a Mason is that he's gotten to learn the intricacies of how to be that poacher, how to be that clinical finisher. His positional play has improved bounds and leaps. And honestly speaking, I could not be happier if he would stay for the other season. I think, from what reports I've read, it's not up to us to decide whether he wants to stay, or like whether we want him to stay or not. I think the position is quite clear that we want him to stay. It's all about whether or not Cavani wants to continue staying at United. So I think that's a call that he has to take.
Yeah, I agree with Casey over here. Cavani has been an incredible signing on and off the pitch. I think on the pitch he scored us 9 goals with a couple of assists, and off the pitch there's no doubt about his mentality, the way he works. At his age, at 33, 34, he's running 9 to 10 or 11 kilometers a game, which is incredible. Like his commitment, he's won so much in his career that it's easy to fall out of love with the sport. But to see that he's at the club with the same hunger, the same desire, while he guides young attackers like Rashford, Greenwood, Martial. Overall, I feel he's been an incredible signing. And as speaking about one of the things Casey mentioned about Greenwood on how he's improved his game, how he's modded his game, taken it up a level. One of the things I noticed yesterday was, if you guys remember, Van de Beek came on the pitch and he crossed from the right wing where Greenwood scored, had a header saved by the keeper. Uh, I feel that was one of the, like, that is an impact of having Cavani at the club, because if you look at the same action in slow motion, Greenwood was between two defenders, and the moment he saw Van de Beek arrive at the right wing, he took a couple of steps inward and he placed himself between the right back and the right centre back, which is something he would have not done 12 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's an impact of having Cavani at the club. He tried to score a striker's goal, like Ole says. So I feel things are only looking upwards for Greenwood if Cavani wants to stay for another year.
But yeah, as Casey said, that it's not in the hands of the club because the club definitely want him to stay, but he's still considering offers from elsewhere. I think Boca Juniors are also interested in him. So let me play devil's advocate here and say Cavani doesn't stay on. Wouldn't that be a good move? Because then the club will finally wake up and invest that kind of money in a striker because we've been calling out for a big money striker for a long, long time. So don't you think that this is the window we can go all out for a striker who's going to be at the club, say for the next 5 or 7 years?
Pranav, it's really scary because I agree that we've had a need for having a big money, a proven goal scorer on top, like somebody like Ibrahimovic in 2017. But the issue is the underlying issues at the club are like having an attacking player from the right side, something we haven't had since Nani, and signing a defensive midfielder or a centre back. I just feel that if we were to sign a striker, it would be more on the lines of signing somebody like Musa Dembele or Andre Silva, because they would be the 30-40 million strikers we would be able to afford. Because if we were interested in Jadon Sancho or like Rafael Varane, reports have been coming in the last couple of days, I don't think that in this pandemic we would be able to afford a big money striker, and Sancho and who knows the top end centre back. It'll be very difficult to get 3 or 4 top players at the club. So I would prefer having Cavani, but if he was to leave, I think we should be looking at somebody like Andre Silva, because I think Sport One did a report in Germany where his release clause is 30 million euros, not even pounds, it's just euros. So that would be a good gamble we would take if he were to leave. But I would still prefer Cavani staying for another year.
Casey, what do you think we should do if Cavani doesn't stay on?
I mean, that's a big if. It's going to hurt us big time. But I think, then we should probably prioritize getting a right winger over a striker at any given point. With my eyes closed, I'd say, just buy Jadon Sancho or some other right winger who can put those balls into the box. Because what it would do then is, I never know what Martial does or, how he plays when he wants to play. But the honest to God opinion is that it would give Mason a lot more chances at playing through the middle. And that's what we need. Uh, yes, we need a goal scoring striker who's accomplished, who's proven, but I don't want to, buy another 22-year-old or 25-year-old who would be staying for the next 5 years and probably not allow Mason to grow as much as he would. And we've already seen what Mason can do. Honestly, if I had the luxury, I would probably get someone similar to Cavani. Unfortunately, there is no one out there in the market. Maybe if Lewandowski was supposed to leave, if he were to leave, he would be a perfect signing, maybe because he would only play for the next 2-3 years. By that time, Mason would be, perfectly ready to take up the goal scoring mantle at United. But I really don't think or want to get a big money striker and prioritize that over the other areas that require a lot more attention. I think the squad in itself with Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, Bruno, and Pogba have more than what it takes to handle the goal scoring threat. It's more about the creating options, like Rashford and Luke Shaw creating from the left. Van Bissaka really needs someone ahead of him to be able to provide that goal scoring threat, or rather that those assists, those balls in that would allow our strikers and their center players to score more.
And thinking of this from Cavani's perspective, maybe if the club can tell him that, okay, we are going to be signing this right winger, we are going to be signing this defensive midfielder, we're going to sign this centre back. Do you think that will maybe convince him to stay? Because if he looks at the team from when Ole took over to now, there's definitely a lot of progress. So maybe if he's given that sort of guarantee and that assurance that yes, things are going to be better and they're only going to benefit you, do you think that might convince him to stay?
Honestly speaking, we really don't know what the sentiment behind Cavani taking so long to consider the offer that we've placed on the table for him. If we have placed an offer, I'm not entirely sure. But the reason for him, it could be that he might want to move back home. because if he's considering an offer from Boca Juniors, he's just getting closer to home, right? So if that's the reason that he wants to go back, then we probably can't do anything to keep him. But if the reason is that he needs more service, then I'm pretty sure that signing someone like Jadon Sancho, who is a proper winger, who would be able to provide those assists and who would draw those defenders away from the central areas. Like, that's one thing that we've been lacking big time. Like, Rashford draws defenders to him to the left, but there's nobody doing that on the right. Like, Bruno has to drift to the wide areas. Mason can do it, but it's very easy as of now to get the ball from Mason because he's still very young, he's still learning. So if you have someone like a Jadon Sancho who knows how to dribble, who knows how to put that sick ball into the box, with someone like Cavani who can get into the right areas and head those balls in, or kick those balls in, I think it makes a huge difference for someone like him.
What do you think about it,
Yeah,
Karan?
yeah, I agree with Casey there. Like, if the reason behind him leaving is to go home, then it's going to be very difficult to keep him here. But in general, I feel in terms of the sporting project, Cavani would realize that United still do need a 2 to 3 years to potentially compete for, let's say, the Champions League and the Premier League. It's not going to be enough for him to want to stay for a couple more years, especially when he's seeing the likes of Rashford and Greenwood really taking up his minutes by the years. I don't feel that success would be so important to him right now because he's won a lot in his career. There's a lot of things that we need to think about. If he wants to go back home, then there's really nothing we can do to keep him here. And success definitely isn't going to be the defining factor in his decision.
Well, that is true, and I hope that I'm speaking on behalf of all United fans. I think everyone would like him to stay at the club. I don't think there'll be a single fan who would tell you they don't want him. But moving on from Cavani and moving back to the Premier League, we face Burnley on Sunday. So give me some predictions, guys. Karan, you were spot on. You're 1 for 1 right now. So I want you calling this game first.
United fans aren't going to like me here, but I see a 1-all draw. I see Chris Wood probably overpowering Lindelof in the air and scoring a header. I do see a 1-all draw. We have struggled after our European adventures. We were fortunate in the sense that Shaw, Maguire, and McTominay got rest. Pogba played one half. Bruno got his rest. Cavani got his rest in a sense. But
And Bissaka got 10 minutes of rest, which is a rare feat.
miracle. So yeah, we have struggled after our Europa League games, and I do see Chris Wood pop out of nowhere or probably Vidra. And I don't know if Barnes is fit, but they should be able to score a single goal. And I see a 1-all draw there.
And what do you think, Casey?
I think we might just nick out the game, like, honestly, because Burnley have historically been our Achilles heel, but off late their defense has not been up to the mark, where you would expect them to be. So I probably see them, like I see us sneaking out a 2-1, or if they're clinical enough, if the right Pogba turns up on that day, I think we might even end up scoring 3 or 4 goals. But as of now, the pragmatic me says 2.
Even I was going for a 2 goal victory, but then listening to Karan now, my mind is kind of confused. So I think I'll go for a 1-0 victory. I feel somehow we'll manage to keep a clean sheet, but it's not going to be a pretty watch, as it always is against Burnley. I think they're going to sit back, they're going to defend deep, and we'll probably need something special to find the back of the net. But let's hope that we pick up 3 points, and I think if we pick up 3 points, second place I would say is almost ours. Like we'll have one foot to the right direction, and because Leicester and West Ham they faced each other last week, and West Ham won that, so we've increased our lead over Leicester. So do you guys think that second place will be safe if we win, say, our next 2 games, or do you think we still need to win more games?
Yeah, 2 games should seal the deal. I think we're 7 points clear of Leicester with
Yeah.
8 games to go. And winning a couple of games, Burnley and your beloved Leeds United in the next two games.
Mhm.
If we could win these two games, we should be able to hold on. Because Leicester, one of the things we're not thinking about is that their last three games are really difficult. I think, if I'm not wrong, they're against City, Chelsea, and Spurs. I think so.
No,
They're three
it's
of the top
us.
six.
It's not City, it's us.
Oh, okay. So, but they played three of the top six in the last three games, and they're bound to slip up at some point. So, a couple of wins should seal second place.
Oh, also current fact check. Tottenham is 7, so technically not top 6.
They'll probably be 10th by that time.
And Casey, what do
Right.
you think? How many wins more do we need?
I think it's fair enough to say a couple of wins should secure it because honestly speaking, the bigger threat I see is West Ham. They have a very easy run in for the last 7 games. The toughest club they play is West Ham, but they play that at home, and we all know how Jesse Lingard performs when he's playing in London. So apart from that, the second, like the biggest challenge they probably have is Everton. Everton have completely lost steam of late. So yeah, I think of the remaining 7 games, I think only West Ham have the clout to pick up maybe 6 wins if they do not lose steam.
Absolutely.
Six wins without Antonio Cresswell and Rice. That's bold. That's very bold.
But then it's West Ham, they've done so much without uh, all of them. Like they've been winning their last games quite single hand, dominantly. Even the City game, I think we all thought maybe West Ham would nick in a draw, right?
Let's just
And
hope
that,
Jesse Lingard ends up scoring 6 winners and we end up straight swapping him for Rice.
I mean, that would be the dream, right?
Okay, I think that'll be all for this episode. Thank you guys for joining me. Any last words?
Always a pleasure being here. Can't wait for the fourth, fifth, or sixth episodes. That's if you invite me again. But yeah, overall, it's been great.
And Casey,
Yeah,
how
I
was your
mean,
debut experience on the podcast?
and it's pretty good. I was hoping a couple of other people might also join in, but it's always uh, in some cases it's not the more the merrier. It's better to have a sane discussion, and it's always a pleasure to have a proper footballing discussion where nobody is fanboying over one or trying to say Ole out over the course of the call.
Absolutely. And before I sign off, I would just like to request everyone to follow us on Instagram at Shambles United Podcast and also on Twitter at Shambles United. And apart from regular podcast updates, we also post updates about Man United. We discuss transfers, we discuss lineups, we discuss everything about Man United. So please give us a follow and thank you for listening to us and hope to see you all soon. Bye bye.